pulled it up a little higher and I was stuck on my toes. I had nowhere to go. And the next thing I knew, my elbow was in my ear. The world was sideways and there was gravel in my teeth and everyone was really quiet.
This movie looks flawless at first glance, but it isn't. The Mummy is packed with epic action, ancient mystery, and unforgettable scenes. Yet, hidden inside those moments are mistakes that slipped right past the cameras. Some are subtle, others are so bold, you'll wonder how they stayed in the final cut. One scene in particular looks completely untouched, until you really look closer. Blink, and you'll miss it. Catch it, and you'll never unsee it. Stay with us as we uncover the small details hiding in plain sight, because the biggest surprise isn't where you expect it to be. Number 20. Modern plane in ancient sky. Set thousands of years in the past, The Mummy works hard to immerse viewers in ancient Egypt, with sweeping desert landscapes and vast open skies. However, eagle-eyed viewers noticed something that clearly doesn't belong in that era. In one wide exterior shot, a modern airplane can be seen flying across the sky in the background. The moment happens quickly and is easy to miss, especially during the film's fast pacing and epic scale. Still, once spotted, it becomes one of those blink-and-you'll-miss-it bloopers that instantly pulls you out of the illusion. Ancient tombs, cursed mummies, and supernatural sandstorms are believable. Commercial air traffic, not so much. This sort of error is more prevalent than the general public thinks, especially in the case of desert outdoor shooting. Aerial view of sky cannot be suppressed, and filmmakers have sometimes neglected to see the background details when their attention is on the actors or action in the foreground. By the time the error is up, reshoots will have become an expensive affair, and thus not be one. Still, the blunder does not affect the overall pleasure of the film. On the contrary, it is a source of little fun for the people who love to spot hidden faults. It tells that even the most daring adventure movies are not able to keep modern intrusions off the ancient world. If that one caught your eye, just wait. Things are about to get even more noticeable. Number 19. Scorpion King CGI looks unfinished. The Mummy builds toward an epic showdown, but the reveal of the Scorpion King left many viewers surprised for the wrong reasons. Instead of looking fearsome, the fully digital character appears noticeably artificial. His movements, textures, and facial details clash sharply with the otherwise practical, grounded visual effects used throughout the film. The problem becomes more obvious because the rest of the movie relies heavily on makeup, costumes, and real sets. When the Scorpion King suddenly appears as a computer-generated figure, the shift is jarring. The lighting and shadows don't always match the environment, making the character feel unfinished. Back then, the digital effects were evolving rapidly. However, the technology was not perfect yet. The Scorpion King was a complete CGI in which very hard animation and rendering were done. Due to the tight schedules and low budgets, the effects possibly did not get the chance to be fully developed before coming out. However, the moment is already considered a classic by the audience. Many individuals consider it a reminder of the movie's large-scale production for its era. The CGI has not stood the test of time, but it did not hinder the film from being a classic adventure. On the contrary, its imperfections are now the source of discussions, laughter, and nostalgia for the viewers who are coming back to the movie after so many years and in different parts of the world. Number 18. Imhotep injuries change between shots. Throughout The Mummy, Imhotep suffers repeated injuries as he battles explorers, soldiers, and supernatural forces. However, careful viewers noticed his wounds don't stay consistent. Cuts, burns, and missing body parts appear in one shot, only to be reduced or completely gone moments later. This continuity error is especially noticeable during action scenes, where the editing cuts rapidly between angles. In one moment, Imhotep's face is heavily damaged, while the next shot shows smoother skin or fewer injuries, breaking the sense of physical progression. The inconsistency likely comes from the combination of makeup effects and visual effects layered throughout the film. Different shots were filmed at different times, and digital enhancements were added later, making it difficult to perfectly match Imhotep's appearance from scene to scene. While the shifting injuries may distract detail-oriented fans, most viewers are caught up in the story's momentum. The mistake doesn't damage the film's impact, but it stands as a classic example of how even major productions can struggle with visual continuity. It also highlights the challenges of blending practical makeup with early digital effects during fast-paced editing, especially when characters undergo extreme physical transformations across multiple scenes without extensive reshoots or post-production revisions later on. Number 17. Camel riding positions suddenly shift. Several desert travel scenes show characters riding camels across wide-open landscapes. In these moments, sharp-eyed viewers notice that riders suddenly change posture and position between shots. Hands move on reins, legs shift sides, and seating angles alter instantly, despite no visible movement occurring on screen. The issue becomes clear during editing transitions, where one camera angle cuts to another without accounting for continuity. A character leaning forward may appear upright in the next shot, while another suddenly grips the saddle differently, breaking the illusion of a smooth journey. Inconsistencies of this sort often occur in animal location shoots where several takes are shot at different times. Besides, the weather, animal movements, and even safety measures may necessitate a change of position, which in turn will bring about a problem of not being able to ideally match body placements when the scenes are later put together. The discrepancies in the position of the camels are, however, hardly noticed by the typical viewer, even though they are obvious once pointed out. The fast tempo, together with the expansive visuals, is what keeps the viewer's focus elsewhere. Nevertheless, the incident is still a humorous blooper for the fans, since it proves that even in epic adventures, small details cause problems in large-scale desert filming. Furthermore, such continuity slips serve as a reminder to the audience that there is always a mix of chaos and creativity in filmmaking, especially when it comes to large outdoor productions where animals, actors, and cameras have to be managed under harsh conditions. Number 16. Sandstorm wind direction makes no sense. One of the film's most memorable sequences involves a massive supernatural sandstorm tearing across the desert. It looks impressive, but careful viewers notice something odd. The wind appears to blow in multiple directions at once, causing sand, clothing, and debris to behave inconsistently. In some shots, characters shield their faces as if the wind is coming straight toward them. Moments later, their scarves, hair, and coats are blown sideways or even backward. The swirling sand clouds don't always align with how the characters react, making the storm feel visually confused. This happens because the scene was created using a mix of practical effects and digital enhancements. Actors were filmed reacting to wind machines on set, while the sandstorm itself was added later through visual effects. Matching those elements perfectly across shots proved challenging. Despite the inconsistency, the scene remains a highlight of the movie. The scale and intensity overshadow the directional mistakes for most viewers. Still, once noticed, the conflicting wind patterns stand out as a classic effects blooper. It shows how ambitious visual sequences can introduce small logic gaps when multiple effects techniques collide in post-production, especially in action-heavy fantasy films aiming for spectacle over physical realism. Number 15. Torch flame sizes change dramatically. As characters explore dark tombs and underground corridors, torches are their main source of light. However, the flames don't behave consistently. In one shot, a torch burns with a small, steady flame, while in the next, it suddenly flares up dramatically without explanation. The change becomes more noticeable during close-up, and wide shots cut together quickly. A torch that barely lights the surroundings can instantly become bright enough to illuminate entire walls, altering both the mood and visibility of the scene. This inconsistency is usually the result of torch adjustments for safety and lighting between shots. Cameras need larger flames for capturing the details. However, smaller flames are good to use to prevent too much smoke or heat during certain shots. These differences become quite apparent when the cuts are made from different takes. Just a few viewers catch the quick changing flames because the story of danger and discovery is prevailing. Nevertheless, once noticed, it becomes a humorous continuity error, and at the same time, it reveals the ongoing struggle between the demands of realism and filmmaking. Torch flames indeed appear to be insignificant, but they significantly contribute to the mood of the scene. This unintentional error shows how practical effects, lighting needs, and actor safety can unintentionally conflict during intense, quick-cut adventure sequences underground. Number 14. Guns never run out of bullets. Throughout the film's action-heavy moments, characters fire their weapons almost non-stop. Rifles and pistols are discharged repeatedly during battles with enemies, yet no one ever pauses to reload. The shooting continues seamlessly, regardless of how many rounds should realistically be expended. This becomes especially noticeable during extended firefights, where characters unload entire magazines without interruption. Despite the intense action, there's never a visible reload or a moment where a weapon runs empty, even after prolonged use. This kind of oversight is common in adventure films, where realism often takes a back seat to pacing and excitement. Reloading would slow the momentum and interrupt the flow of action, so it's frequently skipped altogether in favor of continuous firing. While most audiences don't question it during the first viewing, the endless ammunition stands out on repeat watches. It's one of those cinematic conveniences that helps keep the story moving, but bends reality. Rather than hurting the film, it adds to its pulpy charm. The exaggerated gunplay fits the over-the-top tone, making the scenes feel relentless and energetic, even if the weapons defy basic physics and practical limitations during high-stakes encounters. Number 13. Book of the Dead looks new. The Book of the Dead is presented as an ancient, forbidden artifact buried for centuries beneath the sands of Egypt. Yet, when it appears on screen, it looks surprisingly clean and intact, with crisp pages and sturdy binding that seem untouched by time, despite its supposed age and history alone. Considering the book's role, surviving thousands of years in hidden tombs, exposure to sand, moisture, and decay should have left visible damage. Instead, it resembles a freshly made prop, breaking the illusion of a relic meant to predate modern civilization and undermining its supernatural importance within the story itself entirely. The impeccable look probably results from the pragmatic decisions made in the filming process. The use of a new book made it possible for the symbols and the text to be very clearly read on the screen, especially in close-ups. To make it look old, realism might have made some of the details harder to see, or may have increased the demand for visual enhancement in the scenes with fast action and dramatic storytelling to keep clarity. The error is easily noticed by the careful watchers, but at the same time, it does not affect the power of the book's story. The artifact is still breathlessly and enigmatically felt. Its excessively young-looking appearance is just one more item that falls into the category of minor details that expose the compromises made in the name of cinematic world-building to have storytelling, visuals, and pacing the same for all audiences everywhere. Number 12. Underground tombs are perfectly lit. Deep beneath the desert, the characters explore ancient tombs sealed for centuries. Despite being underground with no natural light, these spaces are often brightly illuminated. Walls, hieroglyphs, and passageways are clearly visible, even when only a few torches are present. In several scenes, the lighting remains consistent, regardless of camera angle or character movement. Shadows don't shift naturally, and entire chambers glow evenly, making the tombs feel more like studio sets than forgotten burial sites. The brightness removes the sense of claustrophobia that such locations should create. This happens because clear visibility is crucial for storytelling. Filmmakers need audiences to see action, expressions, and important details. Relying solely on realistic torchlight would leave much of the screen in darkness, reducing impact and clarity during fast-moving scenes. While the lighting may not be realistic, it serves a practical purpose. The well-lit tombs help maintain pacing and spectacle, ensuring nothing important is missed. Once noticed, the effect feels artificial, but it doesn't hurt the film's excitement. Instead, it highlights how visual storytelling often prioritizes audience experience over realism, especially in adventure films filled with hidden traps, creatures, and elaborate set design underground. Number 11. Scarab beetles vanish without explanation. The scarab beetles are among the film's most unsettling creatures, swarming through tombs and attacking victims without mercy. In several scenes, they crawl over characters or burrow beneath the skin, creating panic and horror that grabs the audience immediately. However, sharp-eyed viewers noticed that these scarabs often vanish between shots. A beetle seen crawling on someone's body is suddenly gone in the next cut. Or a victim survives without any visible aftermath of the attack. This inconsistency is probably because they used practical effects together with digital ones. Real props or makeup were used for close-up shots, but visual effects were employed for wider angles. When the different angles are edited together, it looks as if the scarabs disappear without any reason due to the transitions between the shots being so quick. The scarabs, however, are still very much present, and they are rightly so very memorable and effective. The scenes are fast, chaotic, and designed to overwhelm the viewer, thus making it easy for the audience to miss the continuity error. The disappearing beetles become a fun blooper, rather than a defect, once they are seen. It emphasizes the fact that at times, extremely action-packed scenes, the speed of editing, and the use of special effects can altogether cause the sacrifice of logical consistency in favor of fear, excitement, and unforgettable cinematic moments. Such moments serve as a reminder to the audience that most of the time, spectacle is prioritized when the practical limitations of the big screen collide with the creatively ambitious storytelling of the creature-driven genre worldwide. And just when you think you've seen it all, the next mistake quietly sneaks in. Number 10. Dirt and dust reset instantly. The film puts its characters through harsh environments filled with sand, rubble, and collapsing ruins. They crawl through tombs, fight enemies, and get buried in debris. Yet in many scenes, their appearance resets almost instantly. A character covered in dust during one shot may look surprisingly clean in the next. Faces, clothing, and hair lose layers of grime without explanation, even though the scene continues without a break in time or location. This kind of continuity issue often happens when scenes are filmed out of order. Makeup and wardrobe teams recreate looks across multiple takes, but slight differences can slip through, especially during action-heavy sequences with frequent cuts. Most viewers are focused on the story and don't notice the sudden cleanliness. Still, once spotted, it becomes a classic blooper. The resetting dirt reminds audiences of the practical challenges behind maintaining consistent appearances during demanding shoots. Rather than harming the film, it adds to its charm. It shows how adventure movies balance realism with pacing, ensuring characters remain recognizable and expressive, even if that means dust and grime mysteriously vanish between moments in the heat of action. Number 9. Dialogue does not match lip movement. During several scenes, attentive viewers may notice moments where a character's lips don't perfectly match the words being heard. Lines continue even when mouths stop moving, or lip movements suggest different dialogue altogether. These mismatches often occur in wide shots or during fast-paced action, where dialogue was likely altered after filming. Background noise, explosions, or location audio issues can make original recordings unusable, requiring voices to be re-recorded later. When post-production replaces the dialogue, it becomes a hard task to match every single syllable correctly. Even the smallest differences in timing may cause visible inconsistencies, especially when the scenes are very emotional or are close-up shots. Most of the spectators are oblivious to these tiny slip-ups, as the film's energy and music shift the focus to another area. However, if once seen, the effect becomes easily noticeable in the next viewing. Instead of ruining the whole experience, it brings to light the behind-the-scenes process of a film's refining after shooting wraps. Misalignment in dialogue occurs in large productions, and at the same time, it emphasizes the perfect coordination of sound design, editing, and acting. In this situation, the occasional lip-sync issue is very minor when compared to the benefits of clear dialogue and smoother storytelling throughout the otherwise intricate, action-packed, and fast-moving sequences. Number 8. Ancient maps and symbols change. Ancient maps and hieroglyphic symbols play a key role in guiding characters through hidden cities and lost tombs. However, careful viewers may notice that these markings don't always remain consistent. Designs, layouts, and symbols subtly change between shots. In one scene, a map may show clear lines and symbols pointing to a destination, while a later shot reveals slightly different markings or spacing. Hieroglyphs on walls can also shift in appearance, even though the characters are standing in the same location. These inconsistencies likely stem from using multiple prop versions during filming. Maps and set pieces are often recreated for close-ups, wide shots, or reshoots. When edited together, small visual differences become noticeable. Despite this, the changing symbols rarely confuse the story. The audience still understands the destination and danger involved. Instead, the shifting designs become a fun detail for observant fans. They highlight how production design must balance accuracy, readability, and practicality. While the maps and symbols aren't perfectly consistent, they still serve their purpose, driving the adventure forward and reinforcing the mystery of ancient Egypt without slowing the film's fast-paced momentum. Number 7. Character positions reset during fights. The film features fast-paced fight scenes filled with punches, gunfire, and supernatural chaos. However, in several action sequences, character positions don't always stay consistent. A character knocked to one side may suddenly appear somewhere else in the next shot. These jumps often happen during quick edits meant to increase intensity. The camera cuts rapidly between angles, and in the process, spatial continuity gets lost. Characters seem to teleport across the room without showing how they moved there. Fight scenes are generally shot in parts, with various takes for each specific move or reaction. The final edit of these fragments makes it very hard to maintain precise placement, especially when stunts and actors change roles. The majority of the audience is pulled into the action, and still, these little shifts do not get noticed by them. However, once it is pointed out, it becomes a typical continuity blooper. The reset positions shown reflect how editing favors energy and rhythm, rather than laying down strict realism. The error does not take away from the experience. Instead, it contributes to the film's delightful pulpy quality. It reveals the difficulty of mixing choreography, camera work, and storytelling in the big action scenes, where often the thrill is greater than the perfect physical logic. Number 6. Modern equipment appears on set. Despite the film's ancient setting, a few modern elements accidentally sneak into the frame. In certain scenes, equipment that clearly doesn't belong in ancient Egypt becomes briefly visible in the background, breaking the historical illusion. These moments are easy to miss and usually appear at the edges of the frame. Items like contemporary tools or set hardware can sometimes be spotted during wide shots, especially when characters move quickly through ruins or tomb entrances. Such mistakes often happen on large sets filled with crew members, lighting rigs, and safety gear. While most modern objects are removed before filming, a few can slip past unnoticed, particularly during complex shoots with tight schedules. Most viewers never catch these brief glimpses, but attentive fans enjoy spotting them. The presence of modern equipment doesn't harm the story, but it serves as a reminder that films are carefully constructed productions. These slips highlight the difficulty of maintaining complete immersion when blending massive sets, practical effects, and real-world filmmaking logistics. Instead of detracting from the experience, the blooper adds another layer of fun for audiences who enjoy discovering the hidden realities behind their favorite cinematic adventures. Number 5. Weather changes between consecutive scenes. As the story moves rapidly through the desert, the weather doesn't always stay consistent. In some sequences, a scene ends under bright sunshine, only for the next shot to suddenly appear overcast or dusty, with no time jump or explanation. These quick changes become noticeable during travel and action scenes. Characters may ride through clear skies one moment, then appear surrounded by darker clouds or harsher conditions almost instantly, breaking environmental continuity. This is the case because the shooting of outdoor scenes involves several days. The weather can be quite unpredictable, and the director has to manage the natural forces to keep the production on the timeline. When the different parts of the scene are put together, those changes become apparent. Most of the audience is attracted to the adventure and does not raise any doubts about the changing skies. However, once it is observed, the weather alterations become noticeable as a typical continuity error. Rather than disrupting the flow, they show the practical aspects of shooting outdoors. It is really very hard to attain perfect weather consistency during large-scale outdoor shoots. The changes are a reminder that nature is not always friendly to storytelling, especially in grand desert adventures loaded with action, travel, and supernatural threats that unfold at a breathless pace throughout the film. Number 4. Costume damage disappears completely. During intense action sequences, characters' clothes take a serious beating. Costumes are torn, burned, and covered in dust as they fight, run, and survive dangerous encounters. Yet in later shots, that damage often disappears completely. A jacket ripped during one scene may look perfectly intact moments later. Burn marks, tears, and stains vanish without explanation, even though the story continues seamlessly from one moment to the next. These inconsistencies usually happen because multiple versions of costumes are used during filming. Different takes require fresh outfits for safety, stunt work, or continuity resets. When scenes are edited together, matching every tear and scorch mark becomes difficult. Most viewers are too caught up in the action to notice the sudden wardrobe repairs. Once spotted, though, the disappearing damage becomes a fun detail for fans. It reveals the behind-the-scenes complexity of costume management in large productions. Rather than hurting the film, it adds charm, showing how practicality sometimes outweighs realism. Costume resets help keep performances smooth and visually clear, even if it means clothing magically heals itself between shots during high-energy adventure sequences. Number 3. Shadows move independently of actors. In several scenes set inside tombs and ruins, shadows behave in strange ways. Characters move slowly across walls, yet their shadows shift direction or change shape independently, drawing attention away from the action. This becomes noticeable during moments lit by torches or firelight. While an actor stands still, their shadow may stretch, shrink, or slide unnaturally, sometimes contradicting the supposed light source within the scene. The issues usually come from interlinked lighting setups that are too complex. Several lights are required to give the actors and sets a good light, but this can lead to shadows that are in conflict with each other. When all this is combined with camera movement and editing, the resulting image is not natural-looking. Most of the audience keeps their attention on the plot and does not pay any attention to the shadow inconsistencies. Still, once they are noticed, the shadows are highlighted as a typical visual blooper. The independently moving shadows disclose the priority of visibility over realism in the cinematic lighting. Although ancient tombs would be dark and unevenly lit, films still need to provide clarity and create an atmosphere. This little error does not spoil the experience. Instead, it provides a curious look at the dark, suspenseful, and dramatic scenes underground, where the illusion that carefully controlled lighting is sometimes betraying the very thing it is supposed to create. Number 2. Character accents change throughout film. Throughout the movie, characters come from many different parts of the world, which makes accents an important detail. However, some accents aren't entirely consistent. A character may sound distinctly British in one scene, then shift toward a more neutral or American tone later. These changes are most noticeable during emotional moments or fast-paced dialogue. As scenes grow more intense, accents tend to soften or drift, especially when characters shout, whisper, or deliver rapid lines under pressure. Accent inconsistencies often happen when actors focus on performance rather than pronunciation. Maintaining a specific accent across long shoots, reshoots, and voice recordings can be difficult. Post-production dubbing can also alter how an accent sounds compared to the original take. Most viewers barely notice the shifts, especially during action scenes. Still, once recognized, the fluctuating accents become a subtle blooper. They don't detract from the story, but they do highlight the challenges of maintaining vocal consistency in a large international cast. The slight changes ultimately reflect the human side of performance, where emotion and energy sometimes outweigh perfect linguistic accuracy in cinematic storytelling. Hold on to that thought, because the last one rewrites the rules entirely. Number 1. Egyptian history timeline is incorrect. The film draws heavily from ancient Egyptian mythology, but its timeline doesn't fully align with real history. Events, rituals, and titles are blended from different eras, creating a version of Egypt that never truly existed at one specific point in time. Characters reference customs, burial practices, and curses that belong to different dynasties, sometimes separated by centuries. The coexistence of certain religious beliefs and political structures compresses thousands of years of history into a single narrative moment. This artistic mixing was probably done on purpose. The mashing up of different and commonly seen features made the narrative realistic and, at the same time, thrilling and easy to follow. The decision to stick to the strictest of historical accuracy might have either limited the story or made the audience lose interest, but the taking of creative liberties to increase drama and mystery. The historians may be the ones to point out the inaccuracies, but the majority of viewers are attracted to the show. The change of the timeline does not diminish the power of the film. On the contrary, it increases the non-reality of it. The film is not to be classified as a documentary, but rather as a journey through a legendary tale. The very existence of these historical inaccuracies tells the audience that the art of storytelling has always, and particularly in the case of myth, curses and evil spirits, favored excitement and imagination over factual correctness. And there you have it, some of the most surprising bloopers and mistakes hidden throughout The Mummy. From subtle continuity slips to major creative liberties, these details prove that even beloved adventure classics aren't immune to imperfections. If you enjoyed spotting these behind-the-scenes quirks, let us know in the comments which one surprised you the most. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video if you had fun, and subscribe for more movie breakdowns, hidden mistakes, and film facts you might have missed. And before you go, click the next video on your screen for more cinematic surprises. We'll see you there.